Before Mike Tyson ever threw a punch, his opponents were already defeated. Not by skill, not by strength, but by something far more primal. Something that lives in the oldest part of the human brain, the part that remembers what it means to be prey. Tyson didn't just fight men, he dismantled their ability to fight back. He reached into their nervous system and convinced it that survival meant surrender, that resistance was suicide, that the fight was already over before it began. Most people think they're watching a boxing documentary right now. They're not. They're about to enter the mind of a predator and understand how one man turned fear itself into the most devastating weapon the sport has ever seen. This is the story of how Mike Tyson was psychologically engineered to terrify, how he won fights in silence, and how the monster he became eventually consumed him. Because there's a cost to being terrifying, and by the end, you'll understand exactly what it is. Cus D'Amato wasn't looking for a boxer when he found Mike Tyson. He was looking for something else, something rare. He was looking for someone who could be transformed into pure intimidation, someone who could become fear made flesh. D'Amato had spent his entire life studying one question: not how to win fights, but how to break men before the fight even starts. He understood something most trainers never grasped, that boxing is decided in the mind first, in the moment before violence, in the stare, in the walk, in the silence. And when he met a 13-year-old kid from Brownsville with a body like a pit bull and eyes that looked like they'd already seen death, he knew he'd found his experiment. Tyson wasn't just trained, he was conditioned. D'Amato would take him into dark rooms and whisper to him for hours, telling him he was destined, that other men were weak, that their fear was a gift, a tool Tyson could learn to wield. He taught Tyson that intimidation wasn't about being loud, it was about being inevitable, about moving like violence was your natural state, about making men feel your presence before you ever touched them. And Tyson absorbed it all. He learned to walk differently, shoulders rolling forward, head lowered, no wasted movement, like a machine designed for one purpose. Every step deliberate, every motion calculated to trigger something primal in whoever was watching. He learned to stare, not with anger. Anger is emotional. Anger can be challenged. Tyson stared with nothing, an empty gaze that looked through you, the kind of look that reaches past conscious thought and touches the part of the brain that remembers being hunted. D'Amato understood the biology of fear. He knew that when a human being encounters an overwhelming threat, the body makes a choice: fight, flight, or freeze. And if the threat is terrifying enough, if it feels insurmountable, the brain chooses freeze. It shuts down higher reasoning. It prioritizes survival over strategy. The body tenses, the mind clouds, the person becomes slower, weaker, more vulnerable. This is what Tyson was built to create. Not just fear, but the kind of fear that shuts people down. And it started long before the bell rang. There's video footage you can find if you know where to look. Fighters standing across from Tyson during the referee's instructions. Watch their faces, watch their eyes. You can see the exact moment it happens, the moment they realize what they're standing in front of. Some try to look away. Some try to stare back, but staring back is worse because Tyson doesn't react. He doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. He just exists. And in that existence is a promise. Silent, absolute. I am going to hurt you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Tyson would step in close during the glove touch, close enough that you could smell him, close enough that the space between you disappeared, and he'd look at you, not at your eyes, into them. Fighters described it as being scanned, like he was reading your fear in real time and deciding exactly how to use it against you. Michael Spinks was undefeated when he agreed to fight Tyson. 31 wins, 0 losses, Olympic gold medalist, legitimate champion, a serious, disciplined professional. But before the fight, his trainer saw something he'd never seen in Spinks before. Terror. Pure, unfiltered terror. Spinks didn't want to leave the locker room. He looked at his team and said the words out loud, "I don't want to do this." The fight lasted 91 seconds. Tyson knocked him unconscious. But the truth is, Spinks lost hours before that. He lost the moment he realized Mike Tyson wasn't afraid of him, and that he was very, very afraid of Mike Tyson. This is the power of mental warfare. It removes options. It removes belief. It removes the possibility of victory and replaces it with the certainty of pain. And Tyson had perfected it. Fear isn't a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism. When your brain detects danger, it floods your body with adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes. Your muscles tense. Blood moves away from your extremities to protect your vital organs. This is the fight or flight response, and it's kept human beings alive for hundreds of thousands of years. But there's a threshold, a point where the threat becomes so overwhelming that the brain makes a different calculation. It decides that fighting is pointless, that running is impossible, and it chooses the third option: freeze, shut down, minimize damage. This is what Tyson triggered in people. He was too fast, too powerful, too certain. The brain would look at him and conclude that resistance was futile. And once that conclusion is reached, the fighter is finished. The body stops responding correctly. Punches come slower. Footwork deteriorates. Decision-making collapses. Tyson didn't need to talk trash. Trash talk releases tension. It's a way of managing fear. Tyson understood that silence was far more effective. Silence is pressure, and pressure accumulates. It builds in the air. It grows in the mind of the man standing across from you. By the time the bell rang, his opponents weren't fighting Mike Tyson. They were fighting their own terror. And terror is undefeated. Tyson would come out of his corner like he was shot from a cannon. No feeling out process, no cautious first round, just immediate, explosive violence. And that violence confirmed everything the opponent's brain had been screaming at them. You were right to be afraid. This is exactly as bad as you thought. The psychological damage compounded with every punch. Every time Tyson landed, it wasn't just physical pain. It was validation of the fear. Proof that the nervous system was right, that this man was different, that you were in serious danger. And once that loop starts, it's almost impossible to break. The fighter's confidence evaporates. Their training feels distant. Their corner's instructions sound like they're coming from underwater. All that's left is the desperate primal need to survive. Tyson ended fights quickly, not because he wanted to be merciful, but because he'd already done the real damage, the mental damage. The physical knockout was just a formality. This was the weapon Cus D'Amato had built, a fighter who could dismantle opponents psychologically before the violence even started, who could turn fear into a competitive advantage, who could make men defeat themselves. And for years, it was unstoppable. But there was a problem that no one saw coming, not even Tyson himself. Cus D'Amato died in 1985. Tyson was 19 years old. And when Cus died, something inside Tyson broke that never fully healed. Because Cus wasn't just a trainer, he was the architect, the voice, the belief system, the man who had taken a broken kid and convinced him he was a god. Without Cus, Tyson was alone with the weapon he'd become, and he didn't know how to turn it off. The identity D'Amato had built was fragile. It required dominance. It required everyone else to be afraid. Because if they weren't afraid, if Tyson wasn't the terrifying monster, then who was he? Just a kid from Brownsville who'd been abandoned by everyone who ever mattered? Just another broken person trying to survive? Tyson started to fear losing, not because of the record, but because losing meant he wasn't invincible anymore. And if he wasn't invincible, the entire structure of his identity collapsed. This is the trap of psychological weapons. They work, but they require constant reinforcement. The moment they fail, the moment someone looks at you and doesn't flinch, the entire system breaks down, and you're left with nothing. Tyson's discipline began to crack. He fired the people Cus had left behind to guide him. He surrounded himself with people who enabled his worst impulses, people who fed his ego but didn't protect his mind. The training became inconsistent. The focus deteriorated. The psychological edge that had made him unstoppable started to dull. But the world still saw him as Iron Mike, the baddest man on the planet, unbeatable, invincible. And Tyson needed them to keep seeing that, because if they didn't, he'd have to face the truth that he was terrified, not of his opponents, but of being ordinary, of being forgotten, of being nothing. February 11th, 1990, Tokyo, Japan. Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas. Tyson was the heavy favorite. Douglas was a 42-1 underdog. No one gave him a chance. The fight was supposed to be a formality, another sacrifice to the monster. But something was different. Douglas had lost his mother a few weeks before the fight, and in his grief, he'd found something: clarity, purpose. He wasn't fighting for a belt, he was fighting for her. And when you're fighting for something bigger than yourself, fear doesn't work the same way. Douglas walked into that ring and looked at Mike Tyson, and he didn't break, he didn't freeze, he didn't surrender. He saw Tyson as a man, not a monster, just a man, and he fought. For 10 rounds, Douglas did something no one had done before. He stood his ground. He took Tyson's best punches and didn't fall. He fired back. He controlled the distance. He executed his game plan. And in the 10th round, he knocked Mike Tyson out cold. Tyson lay on the canvas, reaching for his mouthpiece, trying to put it back in. The referee counted to 10, and the invincibility died. It wasn't just a loss, it was a shattering. The entire psychological framework that Tyson's life was built on crumbled in that moment. Fear doesn't work. Intimidation can fail. The monster can be beaten. And if the monster can be beaten, what's left? Tyson never fully recovered. He won more fights after Douglas. He regained titles, but the aura was gone. The psychological edge had been broken. Fighters stopped freezing when they looked at him. They stopped believing he was invincible. And Tyson didn't know how to fight without that belief. He'd been trained to dominate minds, but he'd never been taught what to do when the mind refused to be dominated. The fear he'd used as a weapon for so long turned inward. It became paranoia. It became rage. It became desperation. He bit Evander Holyfield's ear, not because he was vicious, but because he was lost, because he didn't know who he was if he wasn't feared. This is what no one tells you about becoming a psychological weapon. You can't turn it off. It becomes who you are, and when it stops working, when people stop being afraid, you don't have another version of yourself to fall back on. Tyson spent years after boxing trying to figure out who he was, trying to separate the man from the monster, trying to find something underneath all that fear and rage and violence. And in interviews now, older, quieter, he'll tell you the truth. The scariest opponent he ever faced wasn't in the ring. It was the version of himself he'd been trained to become. The version that didn't know how to exist without dominating, without terrifying, without winning. Because when you build your entire identity on being feared, you trap yourself. You need the fear to feel real, to feel powerful, to feel like you matter. And when the fear fades, when people see you as human, as fallible, as beatable, you lose yourself. This is the cost of intimidation, the cost of being terrifying. It works until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, you're left standing in the ruins of the person you built, wondering who you are without the mask, without the stare, without the violence. Mike Tyson became the most feared man in boxing. He mastered mental warfare better than anyone before or since. He turned fear into an art form, into a science, into a weapon that won fights before they started. But he paid for it. With his identity, with his peace, with years of his life spent trying to find something underneath the monster. Fear is powerful. It can create dominance. It can destroy opponents. It can make you unstoppable. But it's not a foundation. It's a tool. And if you confuse the tool for the person, if you become the weapon instead of wielding it, you lose the only fight that matters, the fight to remain yourself. Tyson knows this now, and maybe that's the real lesson. Not how to intimidate, not how to win, but how to survive becoming the thing you were designed to be, and find your way back to being human.